No, Suzanne.
I didn't hear from her.
Marcia?
Guess Marcia.
Okay. Like to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. Is there someone who'd like to second? Or,
I second.
all right, we're ready to go? So the first thing on the agenda is reviewing our minutes from our September 11th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections that need to be made to those minutes? Anyone like to say that they're approved? Okay,
I move to approve.
approve, okay, a second,
A second.
okay. So the minutes are approved and we'll go on to the 2020 meeting schedule. Which is included here. Does anyone have any questions about any of the dates that are listed on this meeting schedule?
Just as a comment, the annual report would be in September again in 2020.
Okay. I know someone raised a question about November 11th, but the library's open then, so that'll be a Tuesday, so that's Veterans Day, but
It'll be a Tuesday?
yeah, it was Monday this year. So it'll be Tuesday next. Oh,
Isn't it-
Wednesday. I'm sorry, Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Double
it's
check
the
our
week
calendar
you're
because
gonna
we're
have a sleep year, be Wednesday.
Well, it is.
Work gets a free day out of me.
Are these new chairs? I'm like adjusting it differently.
They're within a year now, but fun for everyone with
I didn't
the
mean
New
to
features.
be so loud.
happens in council all the time because they have them in the same workroom chairs too.
So if there are no questions about the meeting schedule, we'll go with that. And so we'll turn the time over to Charlene for updates.
I probably should have put that one at the end just to catch all for anything that we've left, but we've completed the children's desk. They built a new children's desk and flipped the children's desk and the pack stations kind of to move it to a more central location to provide a lower desk to help smaller patrons, to give better eye line to the kid zone, that kind of thing. It's really challenging to find any contractors to do small jobs these days, and that one was ridiculously challenging. We have some delays in finishing the project. The door to enter the children's desk is double door, and we didn't decide we want that, so we need to build out, they call it a pony wall, so there's a single door because kids are going to hang on any door, and a double door is a mistake. The contractor pulled out the old desk and drug it through the children's area, and we hope that carpet cleaning could fluff up the fibers, but they're fused, so he's had to buy some new carpet tiles. So we will have a smattering of new tiles interspersed with our old tiles, and it's gonna look wacky, but they feel like they'll wear fairly quickly. It's really just about accountability for what you did, because they didn't need to do that. They could have picked it up and hauled it out, but so just little challenges, but I think overall the objective was met. It does give us a lot of pause in future small projects. We need to do some small construction projects all over the library always, and I'd like to see us find a better, more responsive contractor than the one that did the children's desk. The guys who installed the countertop were very good. It was a very iffy schedule, and then they had to come out and round the corners, and the rounded corners I think are fine. They're not 100% perfect, but I think they're fine for, all intents and purposes. We had some bumpers on them before, but the staff was just worried about, a pointed corner kind of a thing. So just little refinements to the construction project would always be nice, but we don't always have that opportunity. So, but that project is done.
What's the pack area then?
The patron access computers.
Okay.
And we
So-
had a we had taken up the low part of the children's desk, the old children's desk, with a self-checkout unit. And so there really wasn't a lower area where they could get closer to the children's level. We know that some people use that, but the statistics didn't show an overwhelming use for it. And since you have to go out the front doors anyway, we decided to just repurpose that area for more space for those search computers, and then move the search computers only to staff level at the main desk. There's still computers there, so staff can search with patrons and help patrons that way, but for just patron browsing, it's a little bit more over to where the old pack station, or the old children's desk was. And other projects, since we are doing construction on the front lawn, they've done some Christmas lights in the front here. They were able to say, we're not doing these trees, so you could do these trees, and I think it'll be very well received. People have already commented on it, and I love the lights, so I'm all for it. Other than that, we have one of our division managers has been out. He's had some back surgery, and he's been out since August, the later part of August, so it's been really, really challenging. He is a major, hello.
Hi, sorry.
You're good. He is a major collector for us. He supervises collection development. He does mimetic fiction, which is obviously a very huge part of the collection. So we're doing our best to keep our fingers in the dam. We're hoping he'll be back in the next several weeks to start part-time work again. We'll see how it all goes. He's had a really miserable round of back surgery and then a revision to the surgery and some other things like that. If you notice any big holes, we're trying to search for holes. We have some standing orders with some of our companies that have hopefully, kept us going a little bit, but it's definitely not getting the attention that it usually gets. And so that's kind of one of those things where we're sorry it's been what it is, but we have people doing what they can to fill in that hole. And his team is the tech services team, and they're doing an admirable job of covering every which way that they can.
Have people complained or?
No, we're just nervous about it because, you don't want to be the one that doesn't have something glaringly obvious, where are the crawdads sing, something like that slips through the cracks. And so we all kind of look and listen to, our searching and different things like that. But definitely there could be a point where we do some big time catch up because he came out of the gate really strong last beginning of the fiscal year, and I think he spent too much in his opinion. So then it was, break, because now we're going to have a time where we're not going to make it to the end of the fiscal year. So they're always trying to balance the buying. And so this year he'll probably have a good amount to finish off the year really strong. And I mean the fiscal year, which ends June 30th. So that's been one area of concern with our purchasing. Another area of concern with our purchasing has been the e-resources, the e-books. So the state library has been contributing a significant amount, over $500,000, to primarily overdrive purchases over the last number of years. And they have decided that this is not necessarily the role of the state library. They would like to have opportunities to do innovative things, to try different things, to be of support to libraries in different ways. So they announced some time ago that they are not going to be funding that support forever. And so we've met through email meetings, webinar meetings. The library directors met in a group meeting, a kind of retreat meeting. And it was all hashed out in terms of, yes, there's going to be a noticeably lower amount. We cannot all pick up that extra amount. It's just not going to be possible. But we're part of the tier 1 libraries and being larger, and Provo and one of the county systems is with us. And the assessment was based on, okay, we will have a set contribution amount, and then that contribution amount is lower than ultimately what we want to spend in terms of supporting e-resources down the road anyway. So we will buy on top of that. Provo does that already. We do that already. We're continually trying to get to a higher amount, and they're trying to do that thoughtfully by refining collections where, they make sense to be refined, because some collections need more money to stimulate use. Some collections don't need more money, and so they've been trying to adjust those dials over the years to get us to a better number in our e-investment. As of yesterday, the consortium group has decided to boycott Macmillan purchases at least for 6 months. Macmillan has indicated that they would embargo new titles for 12 weeks, and in that 12-week time, a library could purchase one copy, one use, and there would be no sharing. And then after the 12-week period, they could buy more copies, but again, no sharing. And the challenge is if you buy something right out of the gate and it's popular, and then you cannot keep up with more copies, the hold list just gets unrealistic. So my concern with boycotting outright is always our patrons don't have something, and I hate to see that, but people are hoping to make a statement with Macmillan, and we're all in this together, and so the vote has been taken to boycott. My thought before was, even if we did not boycott, that we would buy like at week 7 of the, maybe it was 8-week. Was it 8-week embargo? Maybe, anyway, buy late in the embargo to control the hold list. And we'd have to buy at the same time as the state, because if we buy and the state doesn't buy, or the state buys and we don't buy, then the hold lists are just gonna, our patrons are gonna flood the hold list. And we've been yelled at about that before. Inadvertently, we bought something as it came out before the state wanted us to buy it, and then it was like, well, your patrons just stacked, the hold list, so when we buy copies, your patrons will, be unfairly represented in that. But because I really wanted my one use, one copy, because they last in perpetuity. Many of our hottest books die off after X amount of time, and you would still have that one use, one copy. And the titles after that would be metered copies, which are essentially like weeding books due to overuse anyway. Eventually the hottest book in the library, you start to weed out the copies that come in and look tattered and ratty and all that, because they're just not checking out as rapidly, and you get down to a manageable number on the shelf. And so we're not going to have that. But so now the formula that they've decided on is boycott Macmillan ebooks through May 2020. Purchase Macmillan e-audio. Purchase Blackstone. I gotta get my email up because it's been too many times. Purchase Blackstone Audio, which was also having a challenge in terms of. Okay, sorry.
It's interesting Hawaii's having the same conversation about Macmillan.
Well, the Washington library system, which is the biggest circulator in the country, they started it. There's like, we're not going to play this game. So they did. So boycott and do not purchase all ebooks by Macmillan and its imprints. Buy Macmillan e-audiobooks. Buy Blackstone e-audiobooks. And then the state is developing a statement for website, social media, and email by next week, because there will be items that will be unavailable. So that's kind of where we are. Blackstone publishes a lot of different ones, including Hachette. So it's really difficult to pick out which audiobooks are truly published by Blackstone. So, and you'll lose a lot if you don't purchase Hachette and some of those other ones. So I was pleased that they saw that. I'm not 100%, no one's 100% comfortable with any decision here. It just feels like we're all playing a really interesting game, and I feel like it's pretty unlikely that unless all libraries really stand together, because I feel frustrated that we're already as a state removing, say, $500,000 out of our purchasing of e-materials. We've decided to do that based on the state library's decision, and I don't fault them for wanting to do more. It's just that, well, we were going to spend less anyway, so now we're not going to buy as much, and we're going to boycott you, so the impact of it is probably not as significant, but nevertheless, we hate to not have things for our patrons, but we'll try and keep a better tab on, we'll make sure that our folks know that if it's coming out with Macmillan, the print copies need to be carefully looked at. And we do evaluate hold ratios anyway. Holds are just never going to be something we're able to keep up on the e-system. They're so expensive. It's rough. So we're just going to do the best that we can with that imperfect system and the budget. It's just the insatiable beast. It is really, it's frustrating to kind of get through, but so other than that, construction, we were a little off schedule during that super cold snap week because the masons got delayed and then they had to cover things, which takes longer to do. I think they are probably making some good catch-up progress with these warmer weeks, and that is going to be the stop, go all winter long until we have a better idea of what kind of weather conditions we are looking at. The winter will tell us more about the final schedule. They are alerting us now that we could creep further into September with the finished schedule. We do not have the funding to accelerate that, like bring on more workers. I've already told them, hey, we have more time than money, so we're going to be careful about what we look at programming down the road. And then we're going to hope like crazy that they catch up as we go along. And I think they will. They're pretty good about recognizing, hey, we're behind, what do we do that catches us up? And they've been really responsive so far, so I think it'll be good. I heard they took more drone footage yesterday, so we'll hopefully see an update on social media of the drone footage. What you see out there right now continues to be internal walls. They have poured the entire floor of the auditorium in cement, which was a really big pour for us. We have done a lot of work on the inner courtyard, or the courtyard that will be enclosed. A lot of it is kind of interesting for us to see evolve as well. These are architects who have worked in a lot of places that have gathering spaces, and so we're gonna give it a try. They look very much like crypts right now, and should we all go down, we'll just throw ourselves in one of them, but we're just gonna have to give it a try. We've had additional things come up along the way. The area is not well suited for pavers for 100 things, so they're looking at options for pavers. We've purchased a little bit more of a larger size acoustic sound shell because our stage is wider. We didn't want to fall down in that area. Our auditorium is designed with a little nose bump out, so instead of funding a thrust stage, which would kind of extend that bump out even further, for the first year or season or couple of seasons, we're going to defer purchasing the thrust stage and put the money into the proscenium wall, which was a piece that will separate the front of the auditorium from the back of the auditorium. So essentially you could use it as two spaces, because having that space designed with the construction beams and all those kind of things are drilled with more precision than a retrofit. So it's more important for us to get that in, I think, and operational with the opening of the facility than the thrust stage. So we're just kind of fine tuning all of those decisions as they come forward. We've a portion of the floor in the new hall will be polished concrete. We have decided to spend more money to put in some rebar to hopefully help with the cracking, and then it also kind of delineates it more in sections where the crack could only run the length of the section rather than concrete will crack. Prepare yourselves now, it just does. The beautiful new Norda Event Center, as soon as you walk in the door, there's a huge crack, and that's just what happens. We're getting some samples for aggregate, because if you want the look of your concrete to be more controlled than just general polished concrete, you get what you get. I haven't seen the samples yet. We had kind of a limited toolbox meeting this week because of our development services area was working on a staff meeting day kind of a thing. So it was a little bit limited. So we'll review those aggregate samples, which just means you get it all from one quarry kind of a thing. And it just gives you a little bit more control over it. We have decided the mayor really wanted a wooden stage or a wooden floor for the stage. There's been a lot of back and forth on the wooden floor for the stage. One, we're starting to mix a lot of woods in there. They wanted wood back seats, so the council did upgrade those seats, which is great. We are fine with that. There's pros and cons either way of wood and plastic, whatever. But there's an acoustical treatment of wood. They liked a dark wood for other elements of that. So I had a little heartburn matching all these woods. And so the development services director had a little heartburn with what happens the first time somebody dings or ruins that stage. And so we have talked to the mayor and gone with a black stage, which is a little more standard theater. Our stage is going to get less in terms of dragging props and things like that over it for a full theatrical production, but nevertheless we have our own things happen on the stage that I think it'll be more peace of mind that if we do have to replace a panel of the stage for any reason, you could replace that panel, paint the whole thing, and it should look cohesive. So that change has been made. That's about it. Other things that come up are just like very small opinions, tweaks, catches, those kind of things. But that's where we are with the hall. So we've been tasked with developing policies for library hall usage. Nathan, our outreach librarian, has taken a stab at it with, it heavily kind of relies on some Salt Lake Public use of their auditorium space, which is more limited in terms of maybe production type things. It's a smaller piece, but so just in reviewing this, a couple of challenges. We're going to have to make the hall available for Saturday nights. We just are. The community is going to kill us if that hall is not active at least some Saturday nights. Now, I don't think we have to make it available every Saturday night because we have teen after hours and some other things that we're doing on one Saturday a month. And so we're going to have to carefully reserve the hall for library usage. A few times a year, they've definitely done film screenings for those teen after hours, and we would want to use the hall kind of projector and screen setup for things like that. We cannot necessarily have full usage of the hall and the lobby space at the same time because the hall capacity dictates the facility usage for fire loads and things like that. So you couldn't pack the hall and pack the lobby. And so some of those kind of things, we will have to be strict on the usage of the hall. And then if there's like an overflow, it would have to be into this building, say the media auditorium or the storytelling wing, and it would have to be kind of piped in. That would really be all that we could offer. I am hoping that we can at least go a season or so before the discussion about like wedding receptions and things like that comes up again, because we are not event people. We are program people, but we need to kind of get our legs under us on this. Priority usage is going to be a concern because everyone's going to want similar times, because, if everybody wanted 11 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, that would, if somebody wanted that'd be much more doable than 7 o'clock on Friday or Saturday or something like that. So some of the fees I think are too low on this.
As I was looking at the fees, it seems like the asterisk is what matters with the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it did seem like there was a chasm between the fees and the insurance.
Yep. Some of the challenges with insurance, obviously, if it's our program, we've invited you in. The city is on the hook for the insurance. Some of the challenge with the insurance is Depends on who it is. You know, some of them can readily get it if you have an event of size or an organization of size that are sponsoring it. But other things are going to be more challenging for people to do. So we're looking at ways, we want the facility to be used. We just don't want to run the whole library ragged in the process of using it. So we're trying to look at different ways, care recipients, care applicants, you know, is it fair to charge them and let them know that there will be a charge because everyone wants priority because, well, we're part of you know, we're getting care funding, and is it appropriate for you to not charge them? I think a smaller charge would still be appropriate because, you know, we kind of separate the invested from the non-invested when you have any kind of a charge. And I'm not saying they're non-invested people, but it's kind of just one of those things where if we're going to reserve a night for you, this is how it's got to be. How often we open the reservation. I think that, you know, quarterly would be the most generous that we could be. We're going to probably have to go down to a tighter schedule just because as much as, you know, it's like browsability with the library books. If they aren't here, you don't know you're missing it. If we program, and something comes up, we don't know what you're missing based on the fact that we now don't have a space for the meeting or the class or something like that. Do you have any comments in general and things that you've been thinking about in terms of this facility coming online, concerns that you have, just general kind of feelings about it?
Who's gonna be doing the cleaning?
Well, we have a couple of suggestions. We do have custodial staff, and we have talked about bumping some of the numbers up for custodial staff when these two big facilities come online. I mean, the fitness center is clearly the bigger of the beast, but we could also have some folks, you know, kind of earn usage in the building if it's more of like a participatory model of, okay, you're going to provide 4 trained ushers and you're going to do a cursory check of this checklist to make sure the building is reasonably clean, and then our custodial people will handle the rest, kind of a thing. But it will be custodians.
That might be a lot of work. I would say, you know, this is my job for the convention center, so I'd be happy to help anyone if you want to put me in contact with them. I think package deals would probably be the best, where you define like, okay, for this price you get this person with AV, you get one person to be an event attendant. I think you'd always want someone trained in the facility there, which I would assume you were planning on. And normal crowd control guidelines is 1 per 250 people. And that could be the AV tech and another person because they're both familiar with the building. But couple thoughts. So for event insurance, for events that often with private events for like a wedding reception, things like that, it's not a corporation. We refer them to a local insurance agency who does supply event insurance for them. They can shop around. I'd be happy to give you the person that we work with if you want me to send that to you. It just depends on what the event is and how much it would be, but I would say $1 to $2 a person probably, depending on what it is.
And honestly, I think we're just going to have to see and feel that lobby space to get an idea of how attractive it would be. I mean, I'm not pro on the weddings because this is the biggest day of someone's life.
Yeah.
And we are not prepared to handle the biggest day of your life or your mom. Just saying.
I bet this will be something that just you evolve over time once you see the demand.
Yeah.
Another thought I had was creating booking windows depending on the size of the event, how far out they can book.
That's what I meant by the quarterly thing.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know how long we need to have a really good look of, is it 90 days?
Yeah.
Is it a quarter? Is it a true?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
And with nonprofit groups, that's a way that we've justified giving better pricing to nonprofit groups by only letting them book maybe 3 months out or something like that. So that's what we've said.
And do you think that we should still stand on okay, this is a popular program historically for us. Like Cantorum was here last night. It was big. Cantorum is generally big. They do a lot of advertising. They bring in a lot of folks. Just continue to stand on that as a library program for the maximum benefit for both of us. And then open library programming to Saturday nights.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could also say maybe, have a percentage of how you're apportioning things. So 30% is library events, 50% is public
Community
events, 20% is city events or something like that, where you have a quota for each, and if you are going over one, and you can kind of tie it into what the funding's coming from, right? If I guess that's mostly city, but could be some donors, right? But just that's a way to do it. If you want to say this is the intention of the space, this is how we're going to give priority in what percentage we let book. I would definitely do some demand pricing of weekends and evenings being higher. That can help curb people from doing evening things, especially in this market. It's very price sensitive. And then, saying what's included with the different pricings as far as staff. That's really a big thing. I increase your cleaning and food fees too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that just to bring in food from somewhere else? Is that the...
Yeah, I mean, we have a warming kitchen.
Okay.
I mean, we have to kind of decide what the food is in the auditorium, because is it okay to have different rules? If we let the kids have popcorn in there because that's part of their experience, is that okay to then tell people, no, you can't have anything in there? I mean, it is what it is. We're trying to...
It's your building.
You go up to the Park City film screenings and they're selling concessions as a fundraiser, and you go up to the Eccles and they've acquiesced and they're selling concessions, and nobody gives you a really hard time when you walk in there with your candy. They're more concerned about don't rattle the paper during the professional, kind of event. We don't obviously want to, tax our daytime performances by having candy and snacks in front of all the moms who are like, how could you be doing that? But the evening ones, is that something that we should look at? I don't know.
You could do something like if it's a public event and they want concession sales, you have a concessions fee minimum amount that, like, we need to sell. If we sell $200 worth of concessions, there's no cost for you for this because you've recouped your labor cost or something like that. Have an option to add that on. But
I mean, if it's waters, I think we can handle
If you just-
water. If it's sodas, no.
Yeah.
We have trouble with sodas here. The day after we clean the carpet, somebody surreptitiously brings in a 48-ouncer and drops it. It's unbelievable to me. That's what happens. So I know we're going to get killed if we don't let the community use this facility. It's been done with a bond.
Yeah.
We are going to try to, do a lot of library programming to make sure that it is used first and foremost for free programming that's available to the community, that is relevant to what we do here. We don't just accept any offer of programming now because we can't. We just can't physically program it, staff it, handle it in the space, kind of a thing. So we've got a lot of things to consider with this, and I imagine we will refine it over the first year. Any other thoughts,
I'm
concerns,
thinking
questions?
about the cleaning just a little bit from a high school perspective. We do have outside groups that rent our facilities from time to time. So, for example, I think we have the 2A and the 1A football championships at Orem. And sometimes clubs will sign up to clean the stadium to offset some of the custodial stuff. And I wonder if the team groups might be able to clean something as a fundraiser for their program or something.
Yeah, I can
Just
see
as a
some of the
thought.
groups coming in and saying, well, we'll clean it if we don't have to, do this or whatever. And then they would probably opt for no food, but, yeah, I mean, I think there are opportunities to do that, but I think it's fiddly.
Yeah.
Trying to,
Yeah.
because there's only so many places you can check, and we definitely
Right.
have to have staff here, and staff will close the building and all those kind of things, and
I know, I can't remember which high school it is, but I know several high schools, not just sporting events, but they have like churches or different groups that come meet in their facilities on the weekends. That might be someone to reach out to. I think Timpview might have had a church there for a while.
We had Centerpoint until they built
maybe that's
their
what I'm thinking
new building by the freeway. And
I think
so
that might be who I'm thinking of, yeah.
The high schools do have some expertise, and I could look into any particulars if we have questions about that.
Yeah.
I know that when I've looked at renting different spaces, a lot of them have a very intensive list of what you can and cannot have food-wise.
Yeah.
To the point of we wanted shaved ice, and they said you can have this flavor, but you can't have cherry
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
fear of,
Yep, no red punch.
yeah.
And also like no glitter or helium balloons.
Yeah.
Like the worst things in the world.
because people lose them and they're stuck
And
on the
glitter
ceiling.
just goes everywhere.
and it's hard to clean up.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It's the herpes of the craft world, so we say we're so bad.
And just we just rented the Provo Beach Resort, and their cleaning fee is minimum $100. It used to be $150, and that's if you bring in outside food. They charge a lot more if they do the catering
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a cleaning deposit, so it's not necessarily that they have to pay it, but if they don't, we chip into it or just keep it all.
Yeah, and where we have the gallery space, we're looking at really, if you move the art, you're gonna be in real bad trouble.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, there should be a fee because,
Yeah.
we didn't want that piece right there, so we just took it down. But we don't want people to do that because we could have high school art,
Yeah.
we could have really expensive art, and neither one should be manipulated by people who aren't, responsible for its care, kind of thing.
But I didn't see that in this list.
No, we were definitely needing to do that. The list of restrictions it's kind of spurred me to think about. So I've written that down and we'll address that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Attaching things
The
to the
other
wall.
thing that seems to me that might be tricky is certifying something is clean too. I mean, so what do you do, Suzanne, when you have groups in? Who certifies that it's clean enough? Because one person's cleanliness is not
Right.
another person's cleanliness.
Well, for us, I mean, we're different than this, obviously, but we expect things to get dirty and we're going to clean, vacuum. Usually our event manager will walk through with our client at the end and identify things if we think we need to, of like, hey, you chipped a hole in this wall and that chair's been damaged. Doing a walkthrough before and after the event is usually what we would do, but and we just see how much time it takes to overall clean, and if they have lots of trash, that's usually when we end up charging our cleaning deposit, but they don't take it with them. So I know who's clean, one person's clean is different than the other. I mean, we know things are gonna spill and chairs will get dirty, but it's just what's reasonable that you have to figure out.
And short of just something catastrophic in the restrooms, we don't want really our staff or the public cleaning restrooms.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be gloves and proper,
OSHA
procedures.
requirements.
Yeah. kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Sure, I
Okay.
have to apologize. I need to leave in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll,
I do too.
And
I'll just move
sorry
on.
to make the third, yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
move on really quickly. The city's been looking at ways to reduce the amount of credit card fees that the city pays. We have a lot of really small charges, so they've been looking, or they've been asking us to consider ways that maybe it is raised to say a $5 minimum or something like that. So staff is in the process of looking at that. We can let your account ride to $5. The movie checkouts is a problem because, you know, nobody has a problem shining on their overdue fees. You will get stopped at $5, so that might be a time to take care of it. But the movie checkouts are looking at different options, maybe like incentive to buy a larger, like a $10 and pay $7 or something like that to maintain the rental. Mr. King is back. You guys did a wonderful job with Mr. King, but he is back with the same concern. He's a little irritated about room usage as well. So I think that one is feeding the other, but that rental opportunity, you made a consumer decision to take something home, I think is still valuable for us in terms of, I hate to say defending the collection, but defending the collection. So we're just kind of kicking that around. It's just something to be aware of. We'll let you know if it gets implemented, but that's a request of the city. We did a field trip looking at RFID products. The gates that we'll probably end up purchasing are more like these clear ones. The wood ones are not, you know, like recommended these days. We'll probably look at the vendor is TechLogic for the actual checkout software, and then the gates are Biblioteca. People are liking that combo more out in the library world. The gates, our gates work fine now. We have been struggling with when do you pull the trigger and buy new gates. We will have a gate from the storytelling wing to the hall, and the opportunity that we're not capitalizing on with a gate is if we got a new gate, there is an ability to have the gate sensor tell you what item has not been desensitized. So if you're a mom with a laundry basket full of books, somebody could say, oh, it's Elephant and Piggy, and get that a little more quickly. So our circ staff would love that. Also, you know, if you look in somebody's bag and they have, you know, this particular DVD, you would kind of know that that hasn't been desensitized. You didn't get that all the way through the checkout, kind of thing. Our push-pull with this project has always been, when do you spend the money on the gates? Because then you incur maintenance. So it's a maintenance fee, and it's just never fun. We all know it's never fun to pay for those kind of things, but we'll probably be making that gate purchase in conjunction with the new hall gate purchase, and start with a self-checkout, standalone, upgraded kind of one, and then look towards redoing the checkouts at the circ level. Probably need to do that in conjunction with a carpenter just to make sure that we're thoughtfully designing that space. I want to talk to someone about kind of the ergonomics and the functionality of that area as well. And we could see a time that the deactivation pad just comes up and sits on top of the counter. Right now it's hidden under the counter. Two mixed results. You know, you get a real thick counter. Ours is a solid composite counter, and it's trying to read. You know, it's a reading kind of process, and so you can get the wrong type of counter, and it interferes with that. I think you know where to put it if you see the pad. Right now we have stickers that get worn out that says put your item here, and I think it was an effort to make it look nicer. I think we might just have to forego a little bit of kind of working on that and just do the countertop, put the pad on top of it, you know where to go kind of thing. We're also, Janet was talking about the apps and things like that today, so we need to have a meeting with Circe. Justin Swain has been reaching out to us, but our manager's been out, so he's kind of been, just
Are you
kind of
working
waiting.
with David King with Biblioteca?
I'd have to ask our circ
Okay.
supervisor. I could look up some of her quotes and things that she sent me, but David King.
Yeah. Tell him Ken Bonney says you'll give us a really good discount.
So those are just things, on the plate coming up. We've been sinking money into an RFID upgrade fund for a few years now with the city. So we have money to buy and make those upgrades. It's just we've been reluctant to do it because of when do we want to do it, and then you start paying on maintenance and stuff like that. So those are things coming up. Questions or other things that you guys want to talk about?
So is Mr. King still upset about the same movie, or is this a different movie?
He's upset about the same movie. He really wanted me to splice together all the naughty clips and make the council watch it. And I said, again, the council does not have to watch it, nor did you have to watch it. And so he's not worked through it. And I've told the other leadership, I said, the LAC, they crushed it in the response with this. I mean, it was good. It was positive. It was reassuring. It was reinforcing. I thought he had made his peace with it and, you know, kind of looked at it in terms of an individual consumer decision, but he's also mad about room usage, and then he got shushed because he was talking on a speakerphone really loudly, and he felt like it was he was getting some bad news, and you guys didn't care, and so I don't know how much of it all tied together, but at this point he's indicated he's just going to go to the mayor and probably Dave Spencer, because he felt like he helped get those two elected. And I asked the city manager if I should prep them, and he said no, don't worry about prepping them, because he's going to lay it out how he's going to lay it out, and then you can just respond to those things. But I told him we don't have the ability to edit films for cleanliness. That's a lawsuit that's come and gone. We don't have that, and I can't splice together the naughty parts that you deem to be the naughty parts, because as soon as you do, you know, I mean,
There's copyright laws.
yeah.
Just a member of our board is very sensitive, so he wouldn't want to watch it.
Well, I mean, I just think that
Well,
it goes back to reinforcing that this is a choice. This is an
lost,
individual
and
choice.
It's not
Yeah.
representative.
One
of the
person's
work.
trash is another person's treasure, you know.
But I was so pleased with the way you guys handled that whole discussion. I felt like it was just amazing, and so, but you know, it's just the business we're in to kind of address concerns, and he's a nice gentleman, but there's far worse. I just live in fear of the far worse, because I watched it to feel informed about his commentary or his concerns, and I've seen a lot worse. So, but again, those are my choices, those are his choices, those are your choices. So.
Well, I also think that his wife was part of the issue. I saw her face, and she was not convinced.
That
When we had that meeting, he was more convinced than she was.
Oh.
So I think he's probably been listening to her.
But she's got her own idea of what history is, and that did not conform.
yeah, could be. But I mean, when he made the appointment to come in and talk to me, I was kind of braced for what it was about, because I'm like, oh, he's found something worse. But it was about the same thing, and she was in the background, and she said she would be able to come in at the time, and then she didn't come with him, so I don't know what happened. But the room usage, he has a writers group. They're not an open group. They have dues, and they're very hard to work with. So they've kind of run their course at just having access to all the rooms. So they kind of try to cram themselves into these study rooms, and then they get irritated when the study room doesn't function as a meeting room. And he has suggested that the group should meet at his house, and I'm like, yes, that is the appropriate thing to do. But the group leader, I think, doesn't want to meet at his house, so he keeps like shuffling him off. And
Well, is it time to, I move to close this meeting?
Second.
happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've started Christmas out on the walkway. So
I know. It's a little early.
well, they've just been installing them.
Oh.
I think Parks is just not. I think Parks is not synced with the installers in terms of we're done, unplug it till we turn it on for sure.
I
But
don't know, but driving down,
Nice.
Go ahead.
Center Street at 5:30 in the morning and seeing all the lights over there is really, really bright and really cheerful.
And, David Knowles is David King's boss, and even better friends with him. So.
all right.